Good afternoon and welcome to today's Voice of Faith. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you've been tracking with us. We've been talking about the sower sows the word out of Mark chapter 4 all week. It's been a great week. If you haven't, I want to encourage you to go back and watch these and let them speak to your life, because I guarantee you, you're in one of these four heart conditions that we've been talking about all week. And maybe you might be where I'm going to talk about today, and this is where we eventually want to get, is having a heart that is good ground, where the word is sown and it produces fruit in our life. We're going to talk about that today. But I've seen this happen with many people's lives, where they will find themselves in one of the other three conditions, which the first one is on the wayside, which means they got off path. Number two was stony heart. They allowed themselves to be more sensitive to the problems in their circumstances than sensitive to the Word of God. And number three, the third one, is that they have allowed thorns to come in. The cares of this world, worries, concerns, anxieties, the deceitfulness of riches, the desire of other things, they come in and choke the Word. Well, today we're going to talk about good ground. This is where we want to be. This is what we want to cultivate in our life. And so in verse 20 of Mark chapter 4, it says, these are the ones who sown on good ground, those who hear the word, accept it, and bear fruit. Some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold. Well, the question starts with, how come there's some that bear only 30-fold, 60-fold, and then some that really produce 100-fold? Shouldn't we all want 100-fold? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, you can produce 100-fold. We'll talk about that tomorrow and how to do that. But I want you to see here how to produce fruit in your life, to have good ground, to be a good ground in your life. First of all, you've got to hear the word. You got to be a hearer of the word. Faith comes by hearing, and by hearing the word of God. Faith does not come by having heard. It comes by hearing and by hearing. It says it twice. It says faith comes by hearing and by hearing the word of God. It's a repetitive thing that needs to be taking place in our life, that we're constantly hearing the word of God, feeding ourselves on the word of God. And then once we hear it, then we need to accept it. We need to embrace it and receive it. Just because you hear the word of God, and even though you may be inspired by it, it may encourage you, doesn't mean that you're going to accept it. That means you embrace it and you make it a part of your life. You make it a part of your routine. You make it a part of your attitude. You make it a part of your decision making. You make it a part of your thinking. You make it a part of every part of your life. That's accepting it. You accept it to be a part of you. And then number three, you bear fruit. In other words, you act on it. The Bible tells us that we're not to be hearers of the word only, but doers of the word. That's when it produces success. That's when it produces fruit, is when we not only hear the word, we accept it, we embrace it, we allow it to be a part of our life, and then we act on it, then it will bear fruit in our life. So don't just come to church and hear the word. Don't just hear the word when you're listening to different messages. It is a must that you find application, that you accept it. You put it to work in your life. When the word speaks, we ought to be listening, and when we hear something that we're not applying, we put it to work in our life, and if we'll do that, then we will produce the fruit that God says it will produce in our life. That's good news. That's a great word for you today, and so I'm believing God for God's greatest and God's best in your life. And what God has done for others, He will do for you if you'll work the word. Then, as I say every day, if you work the word will work.